Yes, indeed, y'all. We getting ready for the open line. Well, you got to have an open mind. The render clock. Shit. Once again, don't forget the announcement about Miss Portia Evans, y'all. We're going to try to reach out as a radio station, as a team, to help Miss Portia Evans with the fundraiser that we're going to try to do for her. So, y'all, keep it locked. Brother Jay getting ready to come to you with the open line. But as you always heard, them old people talk about people chewing cabbage. Well, we're going to eat some snap beans right about this point. Brother Jay, I got some snap beans for you. We got a little snap bean going on right here. Mr. Jeff Boutte with the snap bean. Once again, a little bit of snap bean all the way from Plaisance, Louisiana. All right.
The Open Line Radio Show is supported in part by Finders Keepers Home Improvement Store, the place with your residential hardware needs, small engines, outdoor power equipment, bathroom accessories, electronics, lighting, plumbing, and everything in between. Located in the Southern Development Office Building at 1006 Surrey Street, Lafayette. Telephone 337780849. That's Finders Keepers Home Improvement.
It's summer, and it's hot. At KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana, we have the hottest talk and informational shows on the air, heating it up for the community. Tune in every Wednesday for the Open Line radio show with Brother Jay and Sister Khadijah. Tune in on Fridays for Business to Business with Mr. June Andrus. On Saturday morning, educate and get informed on the latest technology and entertainment news with Brother Jay on the People's Tech and Entertainment Show. Yes, it's hot and it's summer, so stay cool with your favorite talk and informational shows here on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. Listen online. Go to KIEEFM.com. That's KIEEFM.com.
We are interactive and live. Call us at area code 337-534-0036. That's 337-534-0036. On the Open Line Radio Show on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana.
Welcome to the Open Line on KIEE 88.3, your superstation. The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of KIEE 88.3 staff or management. Thanks for listening.
Have you ever looked in a face of age? I'll lend your ears to what an old man had to say. 'Cause every generation of his life reflects a movie scene, often more than twice. Child is born to live within the master plan. Boy grows up, leaves his home to be a man. Vintage years of wine for the wine. Every generation of our life.
Hotep, Habarigani, or Assalamu Alaikum. How you doing this morning in this hot weather? And, you know, they're asking people to please don't be outside unless you absolutely have to. Don't be outside unless you absolutely have to. And, yes, it is ideal when we could wake up and whether we're in pain or not, we still start moving and everything because each of us is going through our own struggles no matter what. We also want to send our deepest sympathy to Mr. Leon, DJ Jazzy Jeff, to the family of DJ Jazzy Jeff right there out in New Iberia, Lurville. And we just hope that people can keep the family in prayers and all, and in prayers constantly, and help out wherever you can. Also, we want to send out prayers to our one and only beloved sister Portia Evans. Portia is really sick right now, and we really want to send our support and our love to Portia. She's really sick right now. Someone called and said that she has stage 4 cancer, and we believe in the good Lord. We got to make sure that we try to lift her up, because that's the only person that could bring miracles, and that is what we request: the miracles for her, miracles for you, miracles for myself, for everyone. Brother Jay?
Yes, good morning to the South Louisiana listening audience. Welcome to another edition of the Open Line Radio Show on 88.3 FM. And we'll be having on the line in a few minutes the executive director of the Louisiana ACLU. She's got some valuable information of a lot of things going on. We know the ACLU was just recently in court concerning the pipeline to Angola, with these kids being taken out of certain jurisdictions. When we say kids, people are under the legal age should not be in a state-run penitentiary. So we have her on the line to talk about that and some other things. But Sister Khadija, I want to say we got so much going on. The governor's office of Emergency Preparedness has issued a heat advisory for the state of Louisiana. We have record-breaking temperatures, and you know record-breaking temperatures can have an effect on everything. Air conditions breaking down, all that heat going around,
And yes, and in all this heat too, you got to remember that the police are on patrol. They're checking for seat belts. They're checking for speeding, and you just got to be mindful of where you're at so that you don't speed. Don't give them the extra money that they're trying to get from you. Brother Jay, I received nothing but the calls yesterday with people saying how right there on Center Street in New Iberia, you got state troopers, you got everybody over there that's ducking and diving, hiding, and giving out tickets. And one lady called in. She said, "Well, they just stopping the black folks." I said, "Well, no, they're supposed to be stopping anyone that is speeding or don't have their seatbelt on."
Well, you know right now the controversy with law enforcement around,
okay,
even though it goes buried into the sand, the Justice Department is investigating Louisiana State Police based on on a series of town hall meetings. Now, when we get Sister Elena on, I want people to understand they don't have nothing directly to do with the Justice Department, two separate entities, but we're going to urge her to use the vast resources of the ACLU to urge them to have our town hall meeting that we were promised by the United States Department of Justice. Right. And we haven't had that hearing, even though it's window dressing in a sense. They need to hear from the public on our gripes about law enforcement. And before we bring on Sister Khadija, one more thing. Shout out to my mother, Miss Joyce Valo. Shout out to your mother, Miss Shirley. All the mothers out there, and all the kids are going back to school. Shout out to Miss Nadia if she's listening. Oh, her mother's listening. Okay, shout out to her. Shout out to Brother Shahid. I want to say this about Brother Shahid. Last night I had late night TV on, and I saw a commercial for hospice. And who was starring in the video? Brother Shahid barbecuing. And I told someone in the room, a friend of mine, I said, you know what? That's great. Brother Shahid is on television. I have a mind to call him up. Too bad it's just he's starring in the hospice video. I would say that, Brother Shahid, in case you're listening. Well, too bad you starring. That might be a bigger role. You might star in a blockbuster movie.
Well, then look, and it's not so much that he's starring in the hospice.
Yes, he is starring.
But it's not so much that he's starring in the hospice role. But you have to be mindful of TV, because it was him and one of his granddaughters, Nadia. Mm-hmm. They were in the commercial. But
they shot that on location?
No, they shot it on location, but it wasn't for hospice. It was for something else, and stuff like that. So. When you sign off, that means they have the right to put your image wherever, and you don't get no residual.
But he gonna get he gonna get that big starring role like him and Jacob. Much like Shahid starred in a commercial, much like our president, your former president, who's a record setter. What today is?
Indictment Wednesday.
Okay.
He got
All
indicted
right.
for the fourth time. People, he's a record setter. I mean, if there's a positive out there, he's a record. Nobody else breaking records like him. I'm going to leave it alone, Sister Khadijah, and let Rolling Tower guests we can bring on the line. Okay?
All right. Well, I really don't have no, really no beliefs in the justice system. I said, because I just think they're there just to be there. They're getting their paycheck and everything because the meetings that we attended when the Justice Department was there, nobody recording, nobody taking down notes and stuff. So to me, it was just a drive-by good gesture for them to come out and hear the cries and the complaints of residents out in Iberia Parish, residents out in New Orleans, residents out in Baton Rouge, and residents out in all over Shreveport, yes, all over. So I don't really have any faith in the Justice Department, but that's just me speaking. You're listening to your superstation. This is Real Talk, KIEE 88.3 FM, KOZZ 94.5 FM. How y'all doing out there, Appaloosas? How you doing out there, Sunset? We are really moving. The number to call in with a question or a comment is 337-534-0036 or 337-534-0042. Okay, you're on.
That's Sister
Elena.
Hello.
Hey, okay, we hear you.
Good morning. We have the executive director of the Louisiana ACLU doing some great things, even working right now as we speak. And we had to pull teeth. We had to get on pins and needles to get her on back here on 88.3. The large Southwest Louisiana listening audience, they're waiting with bated breath to hear what you have to say. There's a lot going on. You know you're going into court today. Hopefully it's to help alleviate that issue with those kids being sent to Angola. Tell us some more about it, my sister.
Yes.
Yes, good morning. First of all, I just want to say I'm so glad to be back on the open line. I'm so happy to hear your voices, and I'm so excited to share with you some really important news and information about what's happening in the trial that began yesterday. We are, of course, representing the children who have been in Angola prison now for over 10 months. And what we know is that no children belong in prison, and certainly no children belong in a former death row entity where they are being deprived of fundamental rights, the right to education and to receive a quality education, the right to be able to move freely because these children are being held in their cells for over 14 hours a day. They are also being subjected to what the state is calling cell restriction, but what you and I would understand reasonably to be solitary confinement. And every single child that comes to Angola, no matter where they come from and no matter what they have done, spends up to 3 days in solitary confinement. And the state is calling that an adjustment period. So they are spending 3 days in solitary confinement on arrival to the site. And then sometimes they're also even shackled while they're doing recreation or educational opportunities. And so they may be watching television shackled. They may be shackled while they're writing in their journals or playing basketball out on the yard. And so these are torturous conditions. I haven't even mentioned the heat, but we know that the facility has had many power outages and has also had days where the temperatures in the building have been upwards of 120 degrees. And so we know these are not conditions that are habitable for any human being, let alone young people. And we also know even more than this. It is, Louisiana has an epidemic, an obsession, if you will, with mass incarceration. more than 75% of the people serving time at Angola in the adult prison are African American.
Yes.
And our state is only 33.5% population Black. And so we see double the population incarcerated. And we see that, you know, we have to ask ourselves a question in this state. With our history of slavery, with our history of convict leasing, with the history of overrepresentation of Black and brown people incarcerated in Angola, with the overrepresentation of people serving life in prison and without parole in Louisiana who are African American. The question is not whether these children deserve to be in Angola for the crimes that they have allegedly committed. The real question is, do we as a state have the integrity? Do we have the integrity, the credibility, the character to subject children to an adult prison and incarceration? So I think, you know, we all know that. I think we as a community know the answer to that question, but we've got to push our elected leaders to see that this is really just an extension of a vestige of slavery in this state. And it's not going to help us move forward as a state. As a matter of fact, it's just going to take us further backward.
Yes, and we definitely want to thank you and the group for the attorneys for continuously challenging Louisiana. Louisiana, you know, we have the highest incarceration rate in the world. Louisiana unjustly denies parole eligibilities to many of their offenders, many of whom are first offenders. But you know what, Sister Atlanta, what perplexed me is that when people hear this, it's like they're hearing this for the first time, when in actuality, Louisiana has always been on top of brutality. You look at the Angola 3. A judge took and sent out an order to release the Angola 3, one or two of them at that particular time, out of the cell, and the judge denied. I mean, and Angola authorities denied that that statement that the judge took and sent to them. So I don't know. I mean, like some people, like, it's good that they realizing that, you know, Louisiana is not just a fun state to be in, but it's also semi concentration state when it comes down to the way they treat people of color.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's really important for us to know our history. And, you know, the American South and the former slave states of the Confederacy, including Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, Texas, these states were former slave states. And it is no surprise that these former slave states lead the nation in incarceration. We know from Michelle Alexander and many other authors and many other scholars that there is a direct line from slavery to mass incarceration. It is just slavery by a different name. And Louisiana has become, unfortunately, the basis of our economy in Louisiana is based on a prison economy. We released a report last year on slave labor and exploitation in prisons. And we know that most people at Angola, when they come to Angola, they begin working on the fields in the same way that our ancestors were working on the fields as enslaved people when Angola was a plantation. This is exactly the same conduct. You have the same kind of brutality happening. You have the same kind of, in fact, you know, the state profiting off of enslaved labor. People who are enslaved in Angola are paid 2 cents an hour for the work that they do. And this is essentially, you know, essentially slave labor. And so if you have an economy, people who are incarcerated drive not just the economy in Louisiana, but the economy across the country. Up to $9 billion of our economy is built on the labor of incarcerated people. Incarcerated people perform all kinds of duties. Like, we think of, you know, obviously the most brutal conditions are working in a field, but enslaved people are also performing all kinds of duties. They're doing all kinds of landscaping. They're doing all kinds of, you know, incarcerated people rather, also fight fires also do all kinds of work on the coast. They work in the governor's mansion. They work in the legislature. They perform all of the duties that you and I would be performing as regular workers, except they're not paid and they don't have any protections. And so why do you think a state like ours would have an incentive to keep the jails and prisons full? It's because the economy depends on it, and we have to keep our eyes and our minds focused on it. And what we can't allow the state to do is to use our children, our most precious resource, as a commodity to fund an economy that is already based on the labor of people who have been the most vulnerable people in our state.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I have this this magazine. I mean, it's dated. It's People magazine, dated March the 10th, 2014, and it's called "Wrongful Executed at 14 Years Old." About 70 years ago, George Steenley was tried in a single afternoon, convicted of murdering 2 young white girls, then quickly sent to the electric chair. His bereaved siblings have asked a court for a new trial to clear his name. And I don't know, I'm showing a picture of the young man, and they had accused him of killing 2 little white late girls. And if he weighed 80 pounds, that was lucky. And we're talking about St. Martinville. St. Martinville is maybe about 20 minutes from Lafayette. And so it's like it's the whole history of just realizing what they could do, those that are in power. Gee.
Yes. One of the things,
Sister Elena, here's what I want to add to going back to the kids dealing with Angola. Also closely connected to the Louisiana criminal justice system or juvenile justice is what been happening in the Louisiana Department of Family Services. Hearings about them, the way the placement, the way they place kids in home, the way they treat the people that has to get use out of the Departments of Family Services, the family courts. It's like it needs to overhaul, and they had these hearings, and just like with everything else in the state of Louisiana, we have hearings, we have state legislators get together. Nothing seems to move or change. How closely is what's happening with the Louisiana Department of Family Services is related to what's going on with the kids going to Angola?
That's such a good question, Brother Jay, and I'm so glad you made this connection. So I used to be the chair of the Department of Children and Family Services at the Supreme Court. I spent a year and a half in that role. And what I can tell you is that the same children that are going through our foster care system and are the same children that are finding themselves either going through the juvenile delinquency system or being prosecuted as adults. It's the same children. It's just they're all coming through the court. They're just going through a different door. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. These are vulnerable children, and they are being brought into the system either through the foster care system, or they have run away and they have committed what's called status offenses, which are when you're a minor and you drink alcohol, or you don't go to school, you're truant, or you smoke cigarettes, or you do other kinds of behaviors like that. You cannot be, of course, tried as an adult, and you cannot be prosecuted, but they call them status offenses, and those status offenses bring you into essentially the criminal legal system, but on the juvenile side. And so I found that, honestly, when you look back, if you looked at the children, there are 15 children right now at Angola. I bet you if you looked into those children's backgrounds, yes, I could venture to guess that they have some involvement on the side of Children and Family Services, and have either had some instances where they've spent time away from their home in foster care placement, or some other kinds of circumstances that involve them being involved in court in that way. And, let's talk about the underlying causes, right? Mm-hmm. We keep talking about what the children are doing, what their alleged offenses are, what their crimes are, what their behavior is, their aggression, and all of these kinds of things. Listen to me, and listen to me well. Anybody who has a child knows this. Children only act out and only behave in the ways that that they have been exposed to and or as a response to trauma that they have been exposed to. If a child is acting out, if a child is being aggressive, if a child is having difficulty in school, these are all key signs that they are experiencing difficulty in their families of origin. It's not brain, rocket science. It's really very simple. And we don't pay, we want to spend $35,000 a year to incarcerate a child, but we don't want to spend $35,000 to make sure that child has a safe place to live, has enough food to eat, has adequate educational resources, has adequate tutoring, has a place, a safe place that they can, go to have recreation and fun. How does that make any sense? How does it make sense? It doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense if you want those children to eventually be the next workers who are going to be sustaining the economy for little to no money. That's the only way it makes sense. And I'll tell you this. If the 15 children that are in Angola right now were white children, the entire country would be in an uproar.
That's what I was about to ask.
The entire world would be in an uproar. Because those 15 children are black, we have a level of apathy in the state and in the nation that is shocking. These are children, and unfortunately, OJJ and the attorneys are trying to convince us that these children are not children because they're black, because they're black boys, and because our bodies look different than white bodies, right? Our bodies are muscular bodies. Our bodies are beautiful bodies. Our bodies are tall bodies. But you know what? They use that against us, and they say, you know what? Because this young boy is 6 foot taller, he's 5'10", and he's muscular and he's strong. He's actually not a boy. He's a man. Imagine that. Imagine that, the adultification of our children. That is the most terrible, disgusting thing. And guess what? It's been going on since the time of slavery. How do you think they justified recapturing enslaved people? They said that those enslaved people were superhuman. They had superhuman strength, that they had to shoot them. They had to beat them because they were too strong. It's a trope. It's a racist trope, and it's been used from the beginning of time. And the adultification of our children is what they use to justify treating them with solitary confinement, shackling them, treating them as animals. And we have to push back against that narrative. We cannot allow our children to be called offenders. We cannot allow our children to be called juvenile delinquents. We cannot allow our children to be called super predators. Children are children. And children are precious. And until we treat our children's lives as precious, this state will never win.
Okay. Well, one more thing on that issue. What must be done as citizens, as people who participate in the voting process, some don't, or people who are taxpaying citizens? What can we do to light a fire under our legislative body to change things? We know the dynamics politically in Louisiana. You got some. I hear some.
Please get out and vote. Please get out and vote. We have the biggest election coming up. If Jeff Landry becomes our next governor, you want to see things turn for the worse.
You in trouble.
If you want to see, if you think we are in a bad place now, you wait.
Yes, indeed.
If you don't get out and vote and make sure that that man does not become the next governor, anything and everything that happens to us, we deserve. Because the writing is already on the wall. He has already told you what he is going to do. And it is going to impact everything from healthcare to education to mental health to criminal legal reform to every single thing.
Yeah, that should be assigned to some of them legislators that work with these conservative Republicans over the last 10 years to bring about what you call criminal justice reform, that he already started, Mr. Landry as AG, to reverse some of the fight, and people don't even realize that he's part of that agenda.
He will do it. Oh, he is part of the agenda to roll back everything we did in 2017. We saved the state $262 million. 70% of that money was reinvested back into the community to support community-based services. There's a program called the Louisiana Parole Project. They got a good sum of that money to help get people out on parole. Guess what happened last legislative session?
What's that?
They lost all the funding because conservatives and supported by Jeff Landry, moved to take all that money away. And so we are going backward, and it is going to impact the lives of so many Black people, and so many poor people, and so many children. And so we cannot afford, if you don't do anything else, right now we should have our eyes steadily focused on the gubernatorial race, the Secretary of State race, because we already know voting, which is controlled by the Secretary of State, and anything that happens with regard to criminal legal reform, anything that happens with regard to health care. You remember Medicaid expansion? We wouldn't have Medicaid expansion if the governor didn't approve that, and it will go away.
Yes. We already seen what's happening in Florida. We already seen what's happening with the mindset of the same people, DeSantis. And what we're saying right now on the radio is not a political endorsement of any political movement. It's a practical community issue.
I haven't said one thing about a particular candidate. What I am telling you is focus on the agenda.
Yes.
Look what the policies are. This person has told you what the policies are.
Yes.
I don't care whether his name is Jeff Landry or John Bel Edwards. If John Bel Edwards had the policies that Jeff Landry had, I'd be saying the same thing. This is about policy.
Yes, I think we have a caller. I think we have a caller.
Yes, caller. Ma'am, you're on.
Yes, good morning to all. I was calling to ask the lady, what was the money used for if they didn't use it for parole? Where did they put that money that was supposed to be used there?
Guess what? Very good question, ma'am. They took it and they gave it back to the Department of Corrections and law enforcement and the Sheriff's Department. They took the money from the community and gave it back to the state. And they gave it back to the people who we already know have, some challenges around these issues. They don't need, the police don't need more money. The sheriffs don't need more money. The community needs more money.
And then not only that, but even if we look at these different areas, right there in Iberia Parish, they built the sheriffs, not built, but they purchased a building for the sheriffs, $1.7 million that they purchased in Iberia Parish for the sheriffs and the detectives to go there and lounge and do whatever they're supposed to be doing. And when at the same time, not even a good 3 miles from that facility, you have the Iberia Parish Jail, where these people, they are lying on floors. They have what's that disease that they have where it's all over on the wall?
Some type of mold.
Yes, they have mold. They have mold all over the walls and everything like that. They don't give people the right type of medical needs that they have. So that is ludicrous to send the money back to the ones that don't need it at all. Caller,
yes,
you have a question or a comment? You're on.
Yes, I have a comment and a question I would like to ask.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, my question is, the people say this and all these things about go vote. Okay, we go out and vote. Once we vote our people in, our people is the people that turn on us. Once they get the job, we could call it the office, ask the reception, any question. It could be just simple. They got attitudes. Why they always turn on us?
Yeah. Okay, so your question is, Miss Elena, myself, Brother Jay, we're saying go ahead and vote. And what you're saying is that why are we telling people to go vote when they do go vote for their own turn against them? Is that correct?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let her answer, and then we'll come back with it. And anything else you wanted to say, sir?
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. How can you say, well, no one's going to vote? We go vote. We vote a person in. Once they be in 3 or 4 months, that's a whole different person.
That's a whole different person. Okay. Okay, well,
thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
And I hear that all the time.
Yeah, and Elena, you want to answer it first?
Honestly, here's the thing. The fact that all skin folk ain't kinfolk should not deter us from exercising our fundamental right to vote. If we need to have a conversation, I think, among family, if you will, that when we send you down to the legislature to represent the interests of Black people, to represent the interests of communities of color, we need to have a relationship, a covenant, a family conversation that we know that you are going to be pressured when you get to the legislature. We know that they're going to dangle a lot of different things, maybe some perks in your face, or tell you that they'll help you, if you go with them on this or that. But the bottom line is we have to have some unity among our people. We have seen what unity can do, right? When we stick together, when we understand that our interests are only solidified if we actually have people who go to the legislature and vote, not just what they feel like the vote of the day is, but when they vote based on courage, when they vote based on commitment, when they vote based on a covenant that's made between community members who know what our history is and how it will take a lot of courage to turn that tide forward. So, I mean, I understand people being discouraged. I really do, because, it's not just white folks that are doing us dirty. It's not just Republicans that are doing us dirty. It's some folks who look like us, who seem to have forgotten what the charge is. And I understand that.
I want to say this, sister. I'm saying it tongue-in-cheek, but it could be real. I would advise all the elected officials who are running in the African-American community, especially in some of even the so-called liberal Democrats or even mainstream, to go and take a lesson from Sister Elena. If you really want to know what's going on in your community, go to the ACLU and look up the agenda of the ACLU, and you'll find that's what you should be doing. I'm saying that for them out there who running for office. Before you come in my face asking me for your vote, have you consulted with the ACLU on the issues in the community? I just had to say that, sister.
Yes, and then we have a caller. I'm going to go to the caller right now. Caller, you have a question or a comment? You're on.
I have a comment.
You're on.
Just the other day I read in the Daily Iberian that they did away with corporal punishment. But the thing is, they want to know what they're going to do with the kids with behavioral problems. So I want to know from her, why did they have corporal punishment in the school at this day and age anyway? Because there's something else they could do with the children. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. You heard us, Sister Elena.
Miss Khadijah, would you mind to just restate the question for me? I heard about corporal punishment, but I want to make sure I heard the whole thing.
Well, basically, she was asking why they had corporal punishment in the schools in the first place, and they didn't at one time, and they didn't do away with it. I think that's the crux of the question.
Okay. Go ahead. All right. You heard, Elena?
Yeah, I did hear. Yes. So, there are schools that operate outside of the public school framework that have historically permitted corporal punishment. Usually, these are private schools or Catholic schools. Corporal punishment is not allowed in public schools. To my knowledge.
Okay.
And people, those schools, the private schools and Catholic schools and things like that, they operate based on either private dollars or dollars from the Catholic Church or other things, which is why they kind of have a little bit more, I guess, freedom or leniency to do things like corporal punishment. And I think, look, one thing that we know, and is, we always connect things back to history here at the ACLU of Louisiana, is that, any kind of physical punishment or torture or things like that, that comes from our history of slavery, right? Mm-hmm. So we were beaten, we were punished physically, we were lashed, we were whipped, we were beaten. And sometimes we don't realize that those same tactics, they might not be as quote unquote extreme, but they come from the origins of slavery. And so, she's absolutely right, the caller. There are so many other things that we can do with our children. How about peaceful measures like meditation, like breath work, like therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy? How about yoga? How about allowing the children to have more time to play outside?
Yeah.
How about making sure meals that their families can afford or given to them for free so that they can be energized and they can have a good state of mind when they're in school. I can think of about 10,000 things that we could do better for our kids than beating them, and I think we need to start investing in. It takes an investment. If you want to feed kids nutritious food, it takes an investment. If you want to give them meaningful recreational activities like and art and music and all of these things and science and STEM and coding, it takes an investment. If you want to do those things, we have to put our money where our values are. And that's what it takes, I think, to move us forward and to give our kids a bright future.
Yeah, you know, we invest in a lot of things in Louisiana. We give a lot of tax breaks to big corporations. But these are facts. Louisiana is statistically last in everything that's supposed to be positive. So I'm trying to figure out if this been going on for years, where Louisiana is like 48, 49 in the thing that is supposed to be positive.
For a long time.
What is going on with the people in Baton Rouge? And my focus is Baton Rouge. I mean, even if people say to drop out, don't participate, don't worry about the people in Baton Rouge, those people have a lasting effect on the way you are living your life in this state, which is consistently last.
Yes.
And
you know,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Khadijah. I'm sorry.
You go ahead. You're the guest.
Well, I know y'all. It's hard to come behind Brother Jay.
I'm family. I'm not even a guest anymore. No. What I was gonna say is, you know, we also have to address the segregation in this state and the racism. I mean, by and large, we're still a very segregated state.
Yes, we are.
We still have most of our spaces are segregated. Most of our schools are segregated. Most of our social settings are segregated. And until we see, and this is really more not talking about us, but we're talking about people in power, until they can see that they are not just operating for themselves, but should actually be looking at and feeling empathy and compassion for people that are in more vulnerable situations, we're not going to actually be able to move forward, because they're going to just continue to be representing themselves and their families. And you're going to see the wealth gap continue to widen. You're going to see educational inequity continue to widen, because if the people in power can only make policies that continue to preserve their power and don't think about the greater good, we won't really have a chance to move forward. And until we integrate these spaces, and until people in power actually love some folks that look different than them, I don't think we have a chance at changing this.
And also dealing with the prisoners that they only get 2 cents an hour. They actually get 4 cents an hour, and 2 cents is taken out for tax.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And on corporal punishment became illegal when they started integrating. So we knew that, you know, the black principals or teachers, y'all can't be palling these little white kids, because y'all going to get into trouble. But Mr. Osbury and Miss Harris, when they used to paddle us, that was so so horrific till it was unreal, and it didn't make me better. You know,
it didn't.
No, it just made me more angry, because you got the audacity to paddle me just for something that somebody else said, and I replied back to them.
So you wasn't a bad child like I thought. Okay.
Okay, so we do know that the 15 kids that are at Angola, the juveniles, they are all black males, correct?
I guess, as far as I know.
And let me ask you this, and before I know you're getting ready to go up in the court. I want to segue back into the issue with the town hall with the Justice Department. You have any wording on when if they'll be actually making a trek to Lafayette?
Oh, they are going to make the trek, absolutely. And
Okay.
I don't have a date confirmed yet, but as soon as I get the date confirmed, I'm going to convey it to you, and we're going to make sure that we are also on the ground with y'all in Lafayette. We're going to come from New Orleans, the ACLU team, and make sure we staff that town hall, and doing exactly the same way when y'all came down to New Orleans and y'all showed us so much love. We're going to be with you in Lafayette, making sure that the DOJ can hear from all of the residents and making sure they document all of what has transpired. And so as soon as I get those dates, I will relay those to you. I promise that.
The key word, document, because the times that I've been in attendance.
The one in Baton Rouge. We went to the one in Baton Rouge.
Nobody taking down notes.
Right.
You know, nobody is recording. It was like a feel-good legislation where they could hear the cries of the community, but they're not taking down any notes. So
I think we will make sure of that. We will make sure of that. One of the things that we've been able to do is that we've been able to help document many of the instances that community has relayed to us. And so that's one of the strengths of the ACLU. We actually, when we wrote to the DOJ and documented all of the cases that had been filed, but then all of the cases that we had seen in our justice lab, and we sent them a folder that was probably about 3 or 4 inches thick, and it had everything in it. And we have made that commitment to continue to be in that role to make sure that the documentation exists and that the documentation gets where it needs to go. We will help do that.
Okay. Well, you know, we gonna let you get off the line, but you know, we had to pull you out from wherever you was, you know, on the beach in Hawaii or something like that.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, no, not even Hawaii. Even Hawaii is hot. Well, you know, simply go out to the people out there. You know,
to the people in Hawaii, please send in our love to them and our blessings to them. We know they are in a lot. They are struggling right now with the fires that took out their homes and
everything.
Yeah.
We know what that's like in this state, though, don't we?
Yeah.
To be on the margins and to have lost everything, all your memories, all your pictures, all your furniture, everything. And so, you know, the people of Louisiana, our hearts go out to the people in Maui. And we are praying for you, and we are hoping that you all can begin to rebuild your lives, and we hope you get the resources that you need to help do that. And we obviously understand what it means, you know, to have great loss. But guess what? Great loss makes you very resilient. And if you still have faith, if you keep your faith and you keep your head up and your heart strong, you can overcome just like we have. And we'll be praying for y'all.
Yes.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Sister Alaina Odoms, Attorney Alaina Odoms, Executive Director of the Louisiana ACLU, doing some yeoman work. And this is the one group, if I had to have any group on the radio, who I certainly would support, is the Louisiana ACLU under your leadership.
And
thank you, Brother Jay. Thank you, Ms. Khadijah.
All right, and he would support you. We're going to do the supporting only by registered voters. You got to be a registered voter in order to support, because if not, you have no say so in what's going on if you're not a registered voter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, y'all. Okay. Talk to you soon.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Well, Sister, I really appreciate her coming on, and you know, and she knew I was ribbing her a little bit about not getting on soon. So we're going to roll into this segment. We can bring our next guest on while I run these promos, right?
Okay, yes. Now our next guest is going to be Mr. Anthony Navarre, and he's a longtime activist, was right hand with Janelle, former police officer, and he's just a breath of fresh air when it comes down to our communities.
Have you ever looked in a face of age? I'll lend your ears to what an old man had to say. 'Cause every generation of his life reflects a movie scene, often more than twice. Child is born to live within the master plan. Boy grows up, leaves his home to be a man. Vintage years of wine for the wine. Every generation of our life.
The Open Line Radio Show is supported in part by Finders Keepers Home Improvement Store, the place with your residential hardware needs. Small engines, outdoor power equipment, bathroom accessories, electronics, lighting, plumbing, and everything in between. Located in the Southern Development Office Building at 1006 Surrey Street, Lafayette. Telephone 337-780-8149. That's Finders Keepers Home Improvement.
We are interactive and live. Call us at area code 337-534-0036. That's 337-534-0036. On the Open Line Radio Show on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana.
It's summer, and it's hot. At KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana, we have the hottest talk and informational shows on the air, heating it up for the community. Tune in every Wednesday for the Open Line Radio Show with Brother Jay and Sister Khadijah. Tune in on Fridays for Business to Business with Mr. June Andrus. On Saturday morning, educate and get informed on the latest technology and entertainment news with Brother Jay on the People's Tech and Entertainment Show. Yes, it's hot and it's summer, so stay cool with your favorite talk and informational shows here on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. Listen online. Go to KIEEFM.com. That's KIEEFM.com.
We are back with one of the most hottest show in the world. Yes, I said the world. And we're back again with the Open Line, and we have Mr. Anthony Navarre, and Mr. Navarre, who has been a police officer for over 30 years, done things at Southern. And Mr. Navarre, you could just jump on in. Done things at Southern. Was Janelle Shagwell. May Janelle continue to rest in peace. Right hand person, right? One of Janelle Shagwell, right hand man, and Mr. Anthony, Brother Jake, catch Mr. Anthony on the screen. Okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Anthony, you're on.
Thank you for allowing me to come and get some things off of my chest.
Okay.
Okay. Look, I'm disappointed with the election process and the people who are running.
Okay, you're disappointed with the election process and the people who are running.
Running for public office.
All right.
It's time for black people to take our country back.
Okay,
you know,
it's time for us to take our country back.
Remember when Mr. Trump came up and said he was going to make America great and he was going to take America back?
Yes.
Remember, I questioned who he was going to take it back from way back then. He's talking about the same thing again. It's time for black people to wake up and tell your children and tell your grandchildren that America belongs to us. We are the ones who built America. You know, it was black people who built the White House. It was black people who built all the facilities, you know, the bridges and everything that this country has.
Yes.
And we need to talk about some history with our children.
Okay.
You know, we need to tell them that in New York City, New York was called many different names, but one of the names that it was called was New Amsterdam. And it was called New Amsterdam because Hudson was a Dutch, okay? But when New Amsterdam burned down, it burned down to the ground, and it was important to build New York up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody in the colonies who knew how to do this. So what did they do? They went to South Africa and brought the people who built the pyramids to build New York. You know, so people need to understand that we have a long history. In Louisiana, we had the first black lieutenant governor. You know, In Louisiana, we were first. At one time, we were first in just about everything. But after the Civil War, they took people to the polls with guns. Took black people to the polls with guns and made them vote Democrat. You see, the people of Louisiana, especially of Louisiana, the people of Louisiana way back then, right after emancipation, they wanted to thank Abraham Lincoln for what he had done. Okay? So they all registered Republican.
Okay.
I'm sure that most people don't know that. So I don't have a problem with anybody being Republican, but I have a problem with those people who are Republican who forget where they come from, who forgot, where they come from. And anybody who vote anybody black, and I told you that way back then, I'm saying it again, anybody black who vote for this man again, you ought to,
You can't say exactly what you...
No, I'm not going to say exactly what I want to say.
Right.
But look, the lady you was talking to a while ago on the air.
Oh, Miss Elena?
Miss Elena. She was absolutely right that we need to vote. The most important tool that we have in the black community is our vote.
Is our vote.
And we need to teach these young people that they have to go and register to vote. Our votes speak loud for us. And look, I want to remind people that we did vote in the past. We voted a lot. But we got betrayed by the people who we voted for.
Okay.
We got betrayed by white people and black people.
Uh-huh.
I remember the Black Caucus when Governor Foster got elected. They had a meeting here in Lafayette at the hotel with Foster, and they were there talking about, well, Governor, I need this and I need that, and you know what he told them? He said, I gave you what you asked me for. I gave you what you asked me for, and now you come and ask me for something. I gave you exactly what you asked me for. See, so my point is that we need to quit electing people who are our buddies and our friends. We need to start examining these people and start voting for people who are going to serve our needs.
Mr. Anthony, I know you was a member of the Microsoft.
Yes.
You was a member of law enforcement for a long time, and that ties into my question I'm about to throw at you. And we talk about the Black Caucus. Well, there's a brother. I don't know if you heard of the case of the Ronald Green case, the young man that the Louisiana State Police beat on the side of the road till he died, and then eventually a cover-up. Well, there's one Louisiana state trooper who stood up, found out the information, and put it out there, and now they fired him, and they're treating him bad. And he basically has been critical of the Black Caucus not defending him. For, we all want to have black police officers in our neighborhood, right? We all want to look up to them. We all want them to do the right thing when it's right, when right is right and wrong is wrong. He stood up and he brought out the information on how those white state troopers beat Ronald Green on the side of the road. Now, the Black Caucus did not want to stand up with him. They did not want a public, and he's been critical of that. What you think about that?
Well, I think that's terrible. You knew what my answer would have been. I don't approve of that, not one bit. But again, we need to quit voting for people who don't have our interests as their main concern. We keep voting for these other people, thinking that they're going to take care of our needs. They don't. And we got to stop voting for our people who take care of their family needs and they make themselves rich. I saw in the paper where the sheriff don't have no competition. What happened to Aguilar? What happened to all the other people who said that they were going to run for sheriff? If these people don't get no competition, now I'm not talking against the guy, the sheriff.
Right.
I'm talking about what I think is right. If they don't get no competition from anybody, if they don't have to come and ask you for your vote, then they don't have to, they're going to do what they want to do. Right. And when they do that, then we don't have anything to complain about. you know. So we need to, and look, it's time for black people to start running for those positions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, look, America, they're talking about this woman in Georgia. You know, it was women who
brought the lawsuit.
Yeah, but it was women who made America great. I want to tell you something. Back in the day, they're talking about Giuliani, when Giuliani did this and that to the mob in New York. It was not him. Mm-hmm. It was a black woman. But they kept her in the background.
They kept her in the background.
Yeah, but it was a black woman who did all the work, and they took all the credit up front. Mm-hmm. And they made Mayor Giuliani to be this important person. He wasn't. You remember? You were old enough to remember when Barbara Jordan saved America, saved our Constitution.
Uh-huh.
You remember that, huh?
Yes, yes.
She was a black woman, you know, and it's time to start electing black women to political positions. As a matter of fact, I see that there are 2 people running against this mayor. Look, it's time. We need to first we need to get him out. Secondly, it's time for a woman. I think we've only had one black person to run for mayor. That was George Bush. You know.
Okay, you're on. You're on. Caller, you have a question or a comment? You're on.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Navarre. Good morning, Brother G. Good morning, Sister Khadijah. Awesome show y'all having. Keith Falk, concerned community activist.
Yes.
I'm a young activist in the community. Been a young activist since the time of Miss Janelle Shagwa. And I want to put this statement out here. Our organizations, our black organizations, need to stand up here in Louisiana, need to stand up and take control. 2 weeks before Mr. Cavalier's hearing, the president of the Lafayette chapter of the NAACP went to the city council here in Lafayette and told the I think he's District 5 or District 2, something like that. But told Andy Narcan, the city councilman, Republican, that he supported his views. He supported him 100% on the short-term, keeping short-term rentals out the white community, but yet short-term rentals are setting up on the north side. And also, the NAACP, any chapter, even the Louisiana State branch, has yet to publicly support and back Sergeant Carl Cavalier, the man who brought the footage out about the Ronald Green case, the man who broke the case. They have yet to fully put their backing behind Carl Cavalier, and we have to start exposing these organizations. We have to start putting out the facts as to what it might be. Now, there's a lot of people that's a part of these organizations that's going to come up and say that my statements are not facts. I research. I look, I go back, I research, I go to different meetings, and I watch what they say, I watch how they move, and I watch who they support. They can support these politicians that yet keep our community down or keep our community on a support crush, but can't yet support our own people when they come out against wrongdoing. Thank y'all for allowing me to make my
Thank you so much, Brother Keith.
That's a good one.
That's a good one?
Yeah.
He's right.
Anthony
LaVar said that he's right.
Look, he sounds like my understudy.
There you go.
Oh, he sounds like your understudy.
Yeah, it's a young man in the community, and you know the thing with here, we want new, young, fresh blood to speak out, not the same old people.
Now that you said that, let me tell you this. I saw in the paper where Senator Boudreaux was going to retire. Now I see he got signs out, and I see that his brother is running for another position. You know, and I'm not talking against either one of them. I'm just saying, when is enough enough? You know, and Senator Boudreaux did a good job. You know, he
Yes.
brought things to the community.
Yes, he
I'm not so sure that his brother was. You know, his brother stopped all of the improvement that should have been down the road over here. You know, on Louisiana Avenue. It was one person. It was one person who stood up and said, I don't want to smell coffee in the morning, and I don't want red roofs in my neighborhood. Red roofs meant that he didn't want Pizza Hut and, you know, and other businesses. Well, I passed down there recently, and I don't see no change at all.
So you say it's time for new and innovative ideas and from young people too, and because I know you stepping on the side, but you giving advice, and it's good, you know. So I understand what you're saying.
You know, and I'm not talking against him. I'm just saying, you know, that we still have segregation. You know, you still got neighborhoods in the inner city.
Yes.
River Ranch, Youngsville.
No, I'm talking about down University and Congress.
Okay.
You know, you got areas where no black person, to my knowledge, has ever lived. Okay? And it's still the same. You know, the people of Catahoula are going to court on the desegregation. I thought we had that was settled in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I mean in the 60s.
Right.
We still dealing with that.
Yeah, we're still dealing with that. Sister Eleanor, she had been trying to get a group of parents together, because what she's saying is that they don't plan on sending their children to Catahoula. Anybody that know anything about Catahoula, they know that was a predominantly white city in a city, and that people didn't want to make a wrong turn over there. So now that they done lost a lot of people. They can't get the school funding like they would want to unless they have our black kids there. And the black kids, like what Eleanor had mentioned, why would I take my child when she's catching a bus right here and bring her all the way to Catahoula in those back roads when I knew what they meant to the family?
Let me tell you about Catahoula.
Let me get this call right. Okay.
The city at night to keep black people out.
Say it again.
They would close. They had
I heard
gates that went across the bridges. And
That's
the
right.
roads, and they would close them every night.
Mike,
So you got a call.
go ahead. You caller, you have a question or a comment? You're on.
I have a question for the
Mr. Navarre.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, go ahead, ma'am. You're on.
With Lafayette getting rid of all these blighted properties, and you have a problem with homeless over there, why do you think they can't take some of these blighted properties and fix some of these houses for the homeless people?
This is a good question.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Mr. Anthony is answering you.
That's a good question.
That's the only
And I
question
got
you
an
want?
answer.
Okay. All right. He gonna answer you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
And the answer is our fault.
Our fault?
Yes, because we don't protest when they make those decisions. I'm sure we don't go to any meetings anymore. And I'm sure we're not talking about this in the black community. And we keep electing the people who don't care about us. You know, and look, we got a lot of property that's available in North Lafayette, all over North Lafayette. Recently, I saw where they paid $5 million for 3 or 4 acres of land that was owned by the Bustanis, you know, on Ambassador Caffrey. We got valuable land on this side.
Yes.
But the only thing that they bring to us is those apartments on Willow Street, you know. I think that's the only improvement that I recognize in this community since the 1980s.
Now, Mr. Anthony, when you first came on, we were discussing history, because that's one thing that we have been speaking about, that people need to know about their history. Now, when they done integration, they would call us the little niggers, and we would call them little Cajuns or rednecks. The Acadians, they came out of Nova Scotia, Canada, and they came here, and a lot of them that came here were the undesirables, the people that were convicted felon, murderers, and everything like that. When they came to Louisiana, they were greeted by the New Maroons. The New Maroons were the blacks that helped them to understand that y'all need to wind up cooking your food. They taught them cooking their food before they eat. They taught them how to fish, how to do everything. And yet, it's like nobody want to acknowledge the New Maroons at all. And the New Maroons played a viable part when it came down to people that were kicked out of prisons and everything like that from Nova Scotia, Canada.
Well, not all of them was in that same category.
Okay,
they had some that
had some good ones.
Yeah, they had some good ones. But when they came down here, when they kicked them out of Canada, they tried.
You go ahead.
Good. They tried to settle in New York. New York didn't want them. They tried to settle in the Carolinas. They didn't want them. They tried to settle in Alabama. They didn't want them. They forced them to go around Florida and come in, and they landed in Louisiana. When they got here, you know, they began to take credit for everything, you know, like gumbo.
Gumbo came from Africa. You know, okra. This came the seeds out of our
slaves' hair.
Yeah.
You know, and almost all of the foods that you eat today.
Today, that's right.
You know, had that origin. Some of them, that origin was Africa. You know, so we need to reinstate history back in the schools, or if not, the churches. You know, these pastors ought to get off their behind and start doing work in the community, like Bishop William Bush, Father McKnight, you know, and a lot of others.
What you think of it trying to take certain black curriculum out of schools that going on in Florida?
Wait, before you answer that, can you get the caller? Caller, you have a question or comment? Sorry for the hold.
I just have a comment. This is David Levy. I'm running for state representative against Bo Boye around New Iberia.
Congratulations.
But New Iberia was awarded this huge project by First Solar. It's a $2.1 billion manufacturing facility that's going to be built on 200 acres at the Acadiana Regional Airport that is going to require 700 jobs. Those 700 jobs have an average salary of $57,000 each. So the location at the airport is very close to the west end of New Iberia. So the west end of New Iberia could really benefit from that, and we can start by doing that now. So this is a solar company, again, that's going to employ 700 people. So we need to begin sprucing up the west end of New Iberia. We need to start considering how we can train people to be ready for these jobs when these jobs are available. It's going to take at least a year or so to, it's probably going to be 2 years from now before they actually need production workers. But this is a really wonderful opportunity for Iberia Parish that the governor worked on, and this has to do with the Biden infrastructure, inflation reduction bill, all the money that's coming from the federal government. First Solar is a legitimate company. This will be their 5th manufacturing facility. These are the best possible jobs, and the proximity to the west end, it's going to be somewhere around the Sugar Arena, I think maybe across the street, looking at a 200-acre property with 700 jobs. You could almost ride a bicycle from Anderson Street to the facility to go to work. And again, these are $57,000 per year jobs, 700 jobs. So we need to begin work now to prepare the West End to be able to take advantage of this huge opportunity.
And certainly, Mr. Libby, we'd like to invite you to come on the show one day and explain all of that, what you know. That's some good, valuable information for our listening audience towards Iberia Parish and St. Mary. Certainly, but we got this guest on right here, and we want to accommodate him. Thank you so much.
Well, let me answer. I read about that in the paper. I read about everything you said in the paper, and it's going to be the company that's coming is the third or fourth largest producer of solar, the solar energy.
Yes. Oh, okay. Call it. You have a question? Yep, you're on. You're on. Call it. You have a question or comment? All right. All right, you're on. Well, since we evidently the lights are lit up, when it comes down to the Atchafalaya, all right, where did the name Atchafalaya come from? The Atchafalaya is
it's a French word.
No, I thought it was from the indigenous Americans. I know they don't like to be called.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And we have indigenous Americans. Yeah,
Yeah.
Atchafalaya. Caller, you're on.
Half of the names that these people say that are Cajun are Spanish.
Caller.
You have to lower your
Turn down
volume in the back room.
Turn down your volume. Okay, now go ahead. Make a question or comment. You're on. Today, yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sister Deidre and Brother Jay and your guest.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, I was calling about that last caller just called. I don't know who he is, but anyway, I really wasn't calling about that, but I may call on that very, very shortly. About this job at Rodbury Air Base.
Yes, sir.
And say this was the infrastructure package, blah, 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 and it's close to the West End Park. And he kept reiterating that close to the West End Park. What I'm saying that to say this, these jobs are already taken, okay?
They already taken?
Hell yeah, they're already taken. They are already taken.
And you know how they're already taken?
They already got their people picked. The people are already picked who going to hold these jobs. Whoever they want to have them, that's who going to have them.
Well, I think there might be a few left.
It ain't got nothing to do with Anderson Street, Hopkins Street, Rosalie Street, or any street in the proximity of a black neighborhood. With that being said, what I heard earlier, y'all have a guest there, he was a police in the past or retired.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, that's nice and thanks for his service.
Yes, sir.
I was really calling about the police officer in Youngville. The police chief that had 1,000 heart attacks.
Okay.
The one that had 1,000 heart attack. Okay.
Yeah, and about $1 million stents.
Yes, I know you're talking
but
about.
I'm saying that to say this. When they start bringing up the dirt on him, it's going to start investigating with Met by his office and this and that. They start, then he retired. He's going to put in his resignation. He's going to retire. He's retired. Why?
Yeah, brother, I brought it up a couple of months ago, a month ago or so. I brought all that up a month ago. That I knew that's where it was going, and they crafted in a way where he could just like fade into the sunset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that, you see, that's how they do that.
Yeah.
That's how they do that. So say that he did this for the city council member, got on TV, hold his pad up, picked the ticket, and like Brother Jay said, all that was nothing but smoke. They found meth by his office.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Found meth by his office, in his office, and what? And then 2-3 days later, I'm retired. Anybody who had 5 heart attacks, I exaggerated earlier with 1,000, but anybody who had 5 heart attacks, and I think he had 10 stents, why would you want to stay in law enforcement if you are there to protect us when you need to be in physical shape and maybe had to defend somebody's life at one time? And he had to have another heart attack and couldn't do it.
That's right.
Yeah, but look, y'all could have done something about that. Y'all could.
But I just call to echo that.
Okay.
See, the devil gonna keep his pension. You see, that is why he retired.
Okay.
That is why he retired. And his father brother from the state trooper, which you guys was talking about.
Carl Cavalier.
That and that's a bunch of BS.
Yes.
It's a bunch of BS.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what I call a pen about. That's what the devils do.
All right.
Okay, caller, you have a brief question or a comment? You're on.
I have a comment. We need to bring prayer back in school.
Okay.
That's what I'm calling about. Bring the prayer back in school.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Mr.
We need
Navarro.
Look, we need more than prayers. We need good teachers. They need to be paid well.
They need to be paid well.
Yeah, they need to be paid well, and we need to support them.
That's right.
And it all come down to what I said before. The best weapon we have ever is the vote. If we don't vote, and if we don't cultivate some competition for these people, they're going to continue to do what they do now. Now we got a couple of good people that are running. Look, when I had a problem, I called Pat Lewis one time. Now, I'm not suggesting that you vote for him or you don't vote. I'm just telling you the truth. I called him one time, just one time. He said, Mr. Navarro, I'm busy, but I'll call you back as soon as I can. The next day I got a call. I told him what the problem was. He told me, look, I'm going to bring it up to the council. He said, I don't know what the council's going to do, but it's going to be fixed.
It's going to be fixed.
And it was fixed. I see why Ricky Hardy is running. Now, look, y'all can say all y'all want about Ricky Hardy.
Yeah.
He did some things that I don't agree. But he was the only state politician from Lafayette who really tried to do some things. He really tried to bring some things. So, whether you want to vote for those two people or not, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just telling you, the truth. Like Mervyn Harmon. We need another Mervyn Harmon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why we got Mr. Navarro, because Navarro got the wisdom so people could go through it.
Yes, and wasn't he one that was with the first...
Smile.
Huh?
He was the first police juror.
Right, but then wasn't there a Harmon that was with the black, the first black Tuskegee?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was a mechanic with the... Yeah.
First Tuskegee Airman.
Yeah.
Carly, you have a brief question? You're on.
I have a brief comment. The idea that the 700 jobs at the solar manufacturing facility are already allocated is absolutely absurd. The other thing is that that company will be working with SLCC to train people to do those jobs. And so one of the really good ideas, I think, would be to have public transportation that goes, say, I don't know why he seems so upset about that, but public transportation that might go from the West End to SLCC, which is not that far in New Iberia, right there on the airbase, so that we could go ahead and train some people and have a continuous flow of people available to work at that facility. That's my comment.
All right, thank you.
We're going to get him on the show to explain. We're going to get the people, the gatekeepers, need to explain a little bit more.
I wanted to speak on the history thing. They were speaking about the history, but I wanted to say we have a big problem because we are still under the Napoleonic law.
Okay.
When we try to go up for something or ask a question, they use the law against them.
Okay. All right. And so your question would be that to let us know that we still have a problem with us being under the Napoleon Act?
Yeah, Napoleon.
Oh, okay.
The Napoleonic law over the United States law in Louisiana. Okay. So when we go with the United States law, they come up with the Napoleonic law, which have about 26 clauses in every charge. Okay. So they can do illegal things, and they can use a clause in the law where it make it legal.
Yes, yes, sir. I'll let Mr. Anthony answer this right after we finish with the call.
Like Mr. Navarro is lighting up the lines. It should be good for our
he's
promotion.
Right. We're still under the Napoleonic codes. It's not the law. It's the codes. Our law is a legislative process, but it's heavily influenced by the Napoleonic conditions.
Yes, yes, and a caller had called in and she was saying that her daughter. There's a difference between her daughter at this majority white school and everything, and she feel that things are not going the way they should be going with her daughter. And I explained to her that you need to be involved with the PTC. I mean, in every school they have PTC parents that's involved with the
PTA.
teachers. PTA, yeah,
PTA.
yeah,
Yes,
PTA.
that's what
she needs
make a
to.
complaint to them.
Okay,
If they don't do something, they go directly to the school board.
All right, you heard that. Make a complaint to the PTA, and if they don't do something, you go to the school board and everything. But we got. Go ahead, Mr.
So we got a lot of people running, Mr. Navarre. A lot of people.
I saw that. More than, look, when I ran for sheriff, and when Mervyn Harmon ran for the school board, there were hardly anybody. But, we had some good people back then.
Yeah.
We had Louis Benjamin, and we had other people who were not so good, and I'm not going to call out their name.
Please, please don't.
No, I won't.
Carla, you have a brief question or comment for Mr. Anthony.
Oh, yeah, I want to know what is his status on the Cajun Mania.
Okay, you want to know what's Mr. Navarre's status on
the Cajun Cajun, everything. Time you go in the store, you see nothing but the Cajun label in the store and everything. What does he think about that?
Well, I think it's terrible.
Well, he said he think it's terrible.
But we buy the product, don't we?
Because I don't buy Cajun. I don't want nothing Cajun in my house.
Well, look, most of the things that they profess that they brought to the country was already here. Gumbo was here. Jambalaya was here.
Yes,
all the foods were here.
Yeah, all the foods, and then they want to make you believe that
it was them.
It was them. That they're the kings and queens of everything. They took our food, which was the food from the slaves. That the only thing that they masters used to give them was scraps. So they took the scraps, the bone, the back part, everything on the animal that they would not eat, and the black ladies, they made a miracle with it. They came out with boudin, they came out with hog crackling, they came out with
it's bad for you, man.
With rice dressing. Well, yes, it's bad for you, but then in that particular time, it's called survival.
Yeah,
those were survival meals.
Right. Well, we know better now. We don't want to wind up at the kidney dialysis place.
I want to tell you about crawfish. I remember as a little boy, we used to go in the coolers and pick the crawfish and bring them home, and our parents would cook them. White people would not touch a crawfish. Okay? It became popular because other people around the country started eating it. And I want to tell you a story about what happened in Lafayette. There was a judge named Judge Dalford. He used to go to Don's Steakhouse. It wasn't Don Seafood. It was Don's Steakhouse, and he would eat there every day. And one day while he was eating his steak, he smelled something coming from the kitchen, and he asked, "What is that?" And what is that the servants are eating, the cooks? It was crawfish. It was crawfish etouffee. And that's how it got started.
Okay.
We have another caller. Caller, you have a brief question or a comment? This is the last caller.
Okay, I have a brief comment. I would like to know how is it that the people of Lafayette let the name Cajun be labeled to everything in Lafayette. The buses have it, the Cajun Dome, the Raging Cajuns. So where was leadership in Lafayette? How did they acquire that and just took over and named everything after one culture?
Look, I'll
listen. Thank you.
I was alive and kicking when all that happened. It happened because we didn't
fight.
We didn't fight. We tried to organize people, but they didn't. Look, USL's was the SLI's mascot was the Bulldogs. Okay? When I came back from the service, I enrolled to USL, and the first thing the English teacher gave us a assignment was to write a paper either approving or not approving them changing the name to the Cajun from the Bulldog. I wrote my article, and my paper said I was opposed to that because everybody knew the Bulldog and that we should not name a university mascot to a bunch of people. To people.
Isn't
at
it?
the time, you remember, there was all the controversy about the Washington Reds.
Redskins.
Yeah, they
right.
changed. They finally
Uh-huh,
changed
they
it to the
changed.
Commanders
And
now.
then and Brother Takuna, he was one that was major when it came down to him and a
Yeah.
Brother Homer. They were major for saying that we're not no Cajuns. We don't want this to be
In
named.
fact, they were the first ones.
Well,
Like, seriously, they were the first ones in Lafayette Parish. It was Takuna and Mervyn Harmon's two sons. Bishop Harmon was one of them. And he had a daughter. But they went around saying, look, I'm not a Cajun, and people criticized it.
Yes, until
People didn't support it.
so there is an argument for these what we call culture wars.
Yeah.
Whether or not, because I know Creole is closely now aligned to Cajun.
Yeah.
And do you see that they're taking it and putting it all in one pot instead of having its differences?
Well, they had. Look at the festival. The Acadian Creole Festival.
Okay.
and caller, you're the last caller.
I thought you said that.
Okay, Sister Khadija, I just wanted to say y'all having a good conversation about that. And I was just wondering how y'all feel about it's not just they or them, because I think there's a seasoning called Cajun seasoning is a product of a black man.
Yes.
Opelousas.
Well, they're doing the same thing that
yeah.
others are doing. They taking a word and they putting it on their product. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not hating on them with that. And it's just a wordsmith game. But people follow culture, and
Yeah.
people happen to think one culture is
Dominant.
more dominant than the other. That's where the problem
And
lies.
look, I'm not opposed to Cajuns because I got a lot of friends who are. But they respect me and my culture, and I respect them and their culture. You understand? And that's what we have to do. We have to learn respect for one another and learn how to compromise. But don't always compromise.
And what has happened also is that in the process they cleaned it up. They cleaned it up, like to say be inclusive, but they want you to identify as Cajun or Acadiana. Where is Acadiana? There's no such destination on the map as Acadiana. And when that man from Baton Rouge, they called him the Cajun Taliban. He went and he was
a part of a plot he attended UL. He was part of a plot to attack the Twin Towers before the Bin Laden got to him.
Right, and they named them in the article. The Cajun
the newspaper up north, the New York Times and others named him the Cajun Taliban because he went to UL.
Cajun Taliban, and then here
they got upset about that.
Here you're seeing all these big time lawyers and doctors, philosophers. They saying, oh no, he not no Cajun Taliban, but y'all want everybody to think that everybody from
because
Louisiana.
He went to UL.
That's right, because from Louisiana.
Google the story. You see, we're not
Cajun
lying about
Taliban. That's right.
Yeah.
And let's talk about segregation.
Okay.
Talk about North Side. How did North Side get integrated? Y'all remember? It was Janelle Shagwar. What's the man's name? Son, Father McKnight.
Yeah, Father
That's
McKnight.
that man. I was a young policeman. I had just got on the police department. They wanted to march to North Side, and the city refused to give them a permit. So Father McKnight sent for me and told me this and said, you got to help.
You got to help.
So I went home, put on my uniform, and we left from this here, and we would march to North Side. When we got to North Side, Carlo Lister was the sheriff. He was there with 50 deputies. Okay?
I remember
And he
that.
said, the first thing he recognized me and he asked, Nava, what you doing here? And I told him, these kids I brought these kids over here. Y'all remember what he said to me?
No, but you remember.
Yeah, I do remember. He said to me,
oh, yeah, you better
He
get
said, Naba, what you doing here? Don't you see I got 50 deputies behind me, and every one of them got a gun? You remember that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And what I told him?
Yes.
I opened up my coat and I said, well, I got one too, Sheriff. And I said, and mine got 6 bullets. And I said, I know they're going to get me, but I'm going to take you with me too. Mm-hmm. The first bullet out of my gun is yours. And what he did, he said, oh, let them niggas through. Let them niggas through. Because that nigga crazy. He crazy. You know, so what we need is some crazy people in our community.
Okay.
You know, some crazy independent people. You know, back in the days, you know, they talk about Oklahoma City. You know, we had an Oklahoma City over here. And one day I want to come back, or one day we'll do it by telephone. I'm going to tell you about all of the businesses I remember that were here.
Yes, sir.
Black business.
Yes, sir. We want to thank everybody for calling in, for participating. Don't forget that Imani Temple number 49 is on their 30th anniversary. There's going to be the Afrocentric Ball, August the 19th from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. And you can wear your African attire, semi-formal, Sunday best, and everything. And it's going to be at the Downtown Convention Center. 124 South Buchanan Street. And we want to thank everybody that called in and the ones that didn't have the opportunity to call in. We are out of here. You're going to listen to Brother Herbert with the hot reggae. And please, when you see someone that look like you, about you, show the brother or the sister some love. Let's learn how to respect each other. Let's stop killing each other for nothing, for idiotic stuff. Let's just be the powerful community that we know that we are, and that we were at one time. Thank you so very much.
Have you ever looked in a face of age